Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 469. Little tech consulting. Well, technically, I do free consulting whenever I'm doing these, so feel free to throw your questions in here. Networking and some Homelab Q&A. The general gist of this, as many of you know, I see a lot of people already joined already, is I like doing all the free consulting. I thought about just throwing in free consulting in here. I like all the Q&A with people. It's always a lot of fun. Kind of back to the tech consulting topic, though. And I threw that up there first just to briefly mention it. It's been interesting. So for those of you maybe that are new here, am I back to OBS? No, not right now. I like StreamYard enough that I'm going to keep using it. So I'll bounce back and forth between OBS and a tool called StreamYard. So that's what I'm doing right now, because it makes it really easy for me to pop up the comments, and that little feature is actually just pretty nice. And being able to flip between some of the different tabs when I'm sharing screens. A little bit on the consulting side, though, since I've gone independent, it's been a pretty fast-paced switching back over. A lot of projects, and I'm excited about all the stuff that's happening. So it's been interesting as I've taken in so far. I was just looking this up. 57 people contacted me about consulting. I consulted with a very high number of them. I still got to get the stat on exactly how many have booked, because there's always the negotiation part of what do you want? And sometimes people think they want one thing and want a different thing. But it's always been interesting. I'm happy to be doing it directly again and interacting with people directly. I've met some really cool people, helped them out with some interesting projects, and it just really excited about 2026 and all the different things people will be doing consulting on. So it's been just want to say it's been great. I've been much happier. So that's a good change that I made that definitely is something I just wanted to shout out and say, yes, that's exciting. The next thing is networking. I did my firewall video on UniFi, and I love all the both good and critical, if you will, comments. A lot of fun engaging with people. And I'm going to do some upcoming wiring videos. I want to talk a lot more about networking, getting a little bit back to, and I'm going to have some deep dives on a few of these topics. So I've been really having fun getting back into it. That's part of the reason the photo that is in the thing, and I'll actually, hold on, I'm going to find it. Where's that photo at? I already lost it. This is the photo that made up the thumbnail. But I've been playing with, and I was figuring it might be interesting to really share how I do some of the things, because I realize just talking to friends and things like that, sometimes they don't quite grasp exactly how I test the networking the way I do. I'm also working on, and I may be having a developer build me some tools, because the tools right now for doing network testing are somewhat limited, somewhat expensive. So there are some good tools out there, and Patrick from Serve the Homeless talked about it, but I'm trying to find something that would make it so networking would be a little bit easier to evaluate, like the speed of a VPN. And what I mean by that is I'd like to see a good open source tool, and open source is really key here, because it's got to be something any of you can run to have a repeatable workload put on a system. So we check these boxes, and the easy equivalent you can point to is the gaming world. Before you buy a new video card, for example, there's plenty of game reviews and gamer sites out there, and they'll do reviews, and they may run a benchmark that you can also run in a repeatable way. You can then assess whether or not the benchmark, as it qualifies on your system, makes it worth your time to upgrade to a video card that might be newer or faster, or really any of the components. But it's a lot harder to do that with networking. So I was trying to think of some ways to do this. Now, I mentioned Patrick from Serve the Home. If you haven't watched a couple videos he released, I think in December, he talks about his large-scale testing rig. That's cool, except he spent a little over $1 million on it, and he has an absolute crazy amount of licensing fees. So it's great for Patrick on Serve the Home to do the testing, it's less great for you to have a good understanding. Maybe he pushes things into a failure mode, and that can be interesting because you want to see how things fail and what they can actually hold up to. But I kind of like the idea of trying to build something, and maybe I'm just crazy and this can't work. But like where we have a repeatable get traffic from here to there in iMix style traffic, and it has some type of baseline assessment it does for things. I don't know. I have some ideas that I want to put together around that for better reviews. And this kind of came out of a little bit of a Reddit discussion where people were talking about, they were complaining about it fairly, but I also kind of blame the Redditors as well, blaming influencers for calling things reviews. And I'm like, well, an unboxing isn't an unboxing isn't a review. So people were complaining about the unboxing not being thorough. And I'm like, well, they didn't really test it. They didn't say they really tested it in the particular video the person was referring to. So you can't really count that as a review. And then of course the challenge is, how do you get an honest review on a lot of network gear, especially if there's, not people really doing a lot of in-depth testing on it. So yeah, it's kind of a challenge. Just thoughts I want to throw out there to the world. So the video quality has gone down. Weird. My feed went blurry. It shows no errors on my side. Huh. Let's give it a second, see if it fixes, because I don't have an error message to work from, because it just tells me that it has a little notice at the top, and it just says okay. Like it doesn't have anything. So Bearded IT Dad said it's okay. And I'm not seeing any. StreamYard tells me if there's an error streaming. And I don't see a streaming here. Let's look at we can look at my UniFi. Let's see what it says. Am I experiencing any technical difficulties here? Nope. I got 18 millisecond ping times. Yeah, the UniFi seems to be working. Here, share this tab so we can put something on the screen, but weird. Yeah, there's nothing in my UniFi dashboard to make me think there's any errors. All my systems are working as expected. Where's my computer? Oh, my Docker's pulling some data. This is funny. I think it thinks Proxmox is running on here, but it's actually Sun Orchestra. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, no one's really using much data right now. Where's my computer at? Somewhere in here. Oh, there we go. Oh, you got my Mac Studio, right? Well, no, it thinks I'm on Apple TV. Says I'm uploading at 27, so. Oh, it's weird. It's just my camera. Even stranger. Nope, I don't have any backups running right now. I always make sure all those are off. Hey, thank you for the Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to you as well. When it was just me, so I'll just leave things on the screen because maybe it looks cooler. UniFi thinks my Proxmox server is a heat pump. Fair. So YouTube, oh, that's weird. Only my camera is doing that. which it's all coming from the same computer. So I really don't have an answer for that one. Refresh your StreamYard and page and come back on camera. And that should, in theory, fix or stop the camera start in. Let's just try that. I'll just reload the page, which will only make me blip for a second. So in theory, so let's just reload the page and see if it fixes the potato quality. All right. Now people got to tell me if if I'm blurry. Easier to compress that type of content. Yeah. Potato. Is it better or is it potato? Same. It seems to vary with who's answering. Homelab question. I want to virtualize TrueNAS without having to restore from backup. Should I virtualize and then re-import, or is there a better way to do this? I don't recommend virtualizing TrueNAS first, but if you decide you want to do that, backup and restore should work fine. You just have to fiddle with the networking. As you do the backup restore, it's going to have different network adapters, so you're going to have to go in to the essentially boot interface and fix that. I don't use OpenStack, and I don't think I've opened, and I haven't used OpenNebula. Don't have an interest in it. It doesn't solve any problems better than other tools that I've used. Once I started it on this, I can't switch to OBS, but I just did a stream last Saturday that had no problems at all. So I'm not really sure. It's doing 1080 now. I mean, it does say it's only doing 1080. So it is odd. Yeah, the part that I'm having trouble making sense of is the fact that it was working perfectly fine before. If I make myself small, does it work? It's pausing now. Man, there's a lot of opinions here. Some people think it's great. Some people think it's not, which is, I'm thinking YouTube must be having problems. Because it's like a mix of people here. I guess let's try this. Let's get more scientific. If I'm glitching, put the country you're in, because the few of the people that said I'm not glitching are pretty local to me. Like I know they're in the United States. So if you're glitching, let me know what country you're glitching from. So South US, Florida. So it's okay. It is glitching in the US too. Indiana glitching, but no issues here in South Carolina. Huh. Weird. Well, I can take a vote here. I can restart this under OBS. I just can't connect OBS to the stream. At least if there's a way to do it, I just don't know how. I can look, but I don't think I'm not YouTube smart enough. Okay, so it's still glitching and freezing. Weird. So yeah, that's definitely odd. Maybe I should switch. Let me see if there's a way to. No. I mean, what is it? Does it? I'm just going to look to see if it's. Huh. It's weird because it plays back fine, but of course that's playing back. Glitching in Yorkshire. Your audio is fine, but it seems like your video does keep freezing. All right. All right. Should I switch to OBS? I guess is the question. Should I restart this in OBS? It'll have you guys have to go to my site or the YouTube site to join again because it will start a new stream. So probably I should just pop open OBS. I'm fine with doing that. I'm not showing my network is quite fast. Matter of fact, hold on. Gotta do this. I'm just gonna run a quick speed test. Oh, this is weird. Hold on. Yeah, my speed test shows no problem too. So no speed issues, no latency issues. All right. Still froze. All right. I'm going to start a new one. For student moment, you can start OBS using the backup URL and stop the StreamYard after the live stream is scheduled, and StreamYard will end it. Using the backup URL. The problem is StreamYard works. I can actually share the screen. So maybe I'm not clear on how to do this. I mean, I'm curious if people are better at streaming stuff. Because this is all it says. It doesn't have a way for me to like hijack it. Because it doesn't show up under the normal live stream. Because if I create a live stream, it won't, that I can see, I can't connect it to a, yeah, I mean, you guys are helping me solve it. You don't think it's network related, CPU load, or maybe GPU encode if you use MBAC? No, this is, I mean, the computer is under no load right now. You know, I could kill my browser and still restart it, but I mean, I just restarted the browser. Yeah, that's the whole thing is I don't know if it's me or YouTube. I hate to drop a stream and start it up again just to have exactly the same problems. I mean, I can do the task manager here. What's using CPU? Yeah, nothing's using any high CPU at all. This is a really fast computer, so there's not anything in here to... Yeah, it's using 10% of my CPU total. On any other YouTube live stream, the viewers would be limited. On your channel, does everyone in the audience live for this kind of thing? Yeah, we all want to troubleshoot it. Cycle the camera. Cycling the camera is easy, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. I mean, camera off. And now we'll turn the camera back on. So we've cycled the camera, but I don't think it's going to... I doubt that fixed any of it. Yeah, when in doubt, reboot. I could switch computers. Could switch which computer it's on. That could be fun. That's another test. So hold on. Let me grab my other computer. Because this I can actually do kind of live. I grab other computer. I'll switch to this one, reboot this computer. We'll see if it solves it. Just gotta switch to that. This is kind of fun. Let's just pass my live stream around between computers. The camera reboot made it worse. Craft Computing was having a different problem. My problem's definitely not what his was. We gotta log into StreamYard on the other computer. Almost there. I gotta accept some cookies. Oh, wow, that's really bad. Nope, still no sound. No sound, but good quality. So this is interesting that this part solved it. I'm fascinated by that. Do we have audio now? Is the audio working? That's what we're asking now. You managed the audio and dropped again. You need to wait 1 minute for people to give the feedback. I'll turn on the black and white filter. So it is the computer. It hates the Mac. Weird. This is strange. Video still froze. All right. Wait, is video froze for everybody? It's got to be DNS. This is getting fun. We're real-time troubleshooting here. Video is good. All right. Should I try switching back to the Mac? I rebooted it. Nope, frozen. All right, we're gonna switch over to the other computer because it's got a way better setup. Let's switch. How about now? Looks like it's working. Seems fine now. Okay, great. All right. Blame Bill Gates. I'm fine with blaming Bill Gates. I think that's a perfectly fine answer for this. Oh, can't. Well, I got to line up. The camera autofocuses. Yeah. Because I could turn off autofocus, but I have it on. So this was a fun adventure. I'm glad all of you came along with this adventure. This has been fun. Looks fine until you freeze again. Yeah. So I was on the Framework laptop. It has a terrible microphone on it. That's why I didn't want to keep using it. I mean, I really like the Framework laptop. Don't get me wrong. It just, like most laptops, it doesn't have a great microphone. So fantastic. What can we do to break this? Can I share something on the screen and will it fall apart again? I don't know. Enough troubleshooting for one day. The MacBooks do have a decent microphone. I'll admit that just in general, it's hard to argue with the quality of the Mac. The engineering that they've put into them is really impressive. Do this. All right, turn off that laptop. Test the limits. Oh, the Surface has a good mic. I've not really messed much with the Surface laptops. Are they popular anymore? I don't see them very often. I feel like everyone has just moved to the MacBook, and especially the MacBook Air. Even at like several companies my friends all work for, like everyone just gets a MacBook, or mostly MacBook Airs. Like the company my wife works for, everyone gets a MacBook. That seems to be kind of like the go-to, and I don't blame them. I mean, the tooling has gotten better. They're easy. Overall, they seem to be pretty easy to manage. I don't have a ton of experience managing Mac. Do I have any initial thoughts on the UniFi travel router? Yes, I do. I like it. I'm going to have a review done soon because I didn't watch everybody's review, but this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where a lot of them aren't reviews. They're not really testing the networking on these things. And I have been pushing data through it. And so far I haven't really, I mean, it's very new and it seems to work quite well, but I'm going to do a more technical review of it, how it works, how it does what it does. So I think it's a pretty neat device. I think the pricing isn't bad on it, but it's a neat device. And I think that something should be a caveat on there for those of you in the UniFi ecosystem. So if you're in the UniFi ecosystem, this is a nice add-on. That's the important part, is understanding where it fits in and whether or not it's, for you. Do I still attend MSP events, or do I intend to? I am very up in the air on that question. I don't know. I skipped out on some of them last year. I'll probably go to MSP GeekCon because I like a lot of people there and it's fun. But yeah, I don't know which ones I'll be going to. I'm very up in the air about it. It's nice. I like all the people there. It's just a matter of I don't really get much value out of them unless I'm the one speaking. So if I'm going to go speak there, yes, I'll show up. If I'm not speaking there, I don't know if I'll be going. So that's kind of it's not always up to me if I'm speaking. Sometimes my topics aren't a fit for what they want. Therefore, I don't know. Techno Tim is the only one who mentioned that you need a UI gateway for the, yeah. I've heard people commenting on it. But yeah, you need it. Ah, I don't know it that I think you can use it without that. There's just not much you can do unless you use that. So it's really ideal to tie it to your unified gateway. I think it will route traffic without one, but it doesn't do everything you want it to do. It's not a layer 2 bridge. You don't get an IP from your home network. What it's doing is it's just using unified teleport. So you're just full tunnel VPNing back to your UniFi device, which is fine. That's perfectly adequate. I don't think it has any split tunneling options though. That's the part I want to just poke at it a little bit and try to figure out is, does it have all the features or what those features are? And I want to break down how they work. And I think I got SSH enabled on it. So I want to log into it to see everything it's doing. Yeah, if you're looking for a dedicated, more full featured travel router, the UniFi one's is not exactly what you want. So, what conferences are on your list? You got to play in year 2. I know. I might just attend the hacking ones. Those are the ones I actually get the most value out of, and they're less expensive. So my challenge with going to conferences is like, spend a lot of money for an MSP conference that's very business-like and doesn't really provide me a ton of insight, or go to a hacking conference that costs less, has super cool people, and I'm going to learn something. Yeah, to teleport back to your network, you need a gateway. That's exactly true, like Cody said here. Moving your wife's devices to IoT. Any issues with this? No. Well, I'm undecided if I'm going to DEF CON. I'll be honest. I like the other conferences, but DEF CON's kind of an undecided for me. Need the ability for multiple SSDs and route traffic through privacy VPNs like PIA. Yeah, this is where people are going to probably this is where my review is going to maybe, I don't know about differ, but I didn't watch other people's reviews either. I've been busy. Matter of fact, I've actually been busy building. I just built out another part of my studio that I'm finishing off. I get in build mode sometimes, where I just want to do a bunch of construction work and things like that. So anyways, I've been busy doing that. But that is definitely a good point. If you're looking for a travel router that will then route things while you're traveling out of privacy VPN, yeah, that's not what this is. But that's not always the use case. I actually think this has a really solid business use case where businesses who go, hey, I'd like people to connect to the office and have a full tunnel wherever they're going. This seems like a good device for that, because now I don't got to load software. In fact, I think there's going to be a lot of people who use it for an off book use case, so to speak. There are some employers that allow you to work from home, but they mean, and this is what I've learned from a few of my work from home friends, when they say work from home, they mean your home and not any other home. They expect you to come from a certain IP address. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who use it for that, because that is a way you could follow the rules of coming through your home IP address, even if you're geographically not at your home. I thought that's a weird that, you think work from home means work from anywhere, but a few employers have defined it as work from your home, not anyone else's home, which I found interesting. Question: does TrueNAS have a way to keep offsite backups working when the internet is choppy? I don't understand the question exactly, because the backups will fail if the internet is not working properly. Depending, there is a threshold by which you are sending data, and if too much data gets dropped, it will drop. But backups, depending on the type you're using, can be resumed, so it'll back up what it can, and when the internet comes back, it will finish doing the thing. Are there any of these that support NetBird? I think there's some Tailscale, but everything is hard coded. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't know that they're embedding it, or I know some companies are getting more into offering it through Tailscale. Tailscale versus NetBird had what they refer to as first movers advantage, as in they came to market with a product that was really good. And first, I know zero tier predates Tailscale, but Tailscale really beat out zero tier in terms of features. So Tailscale is becoming extremely popular to embed in a lot of these systems. But honestly, with any of these companies, I mean, as long as they're running a Linux base, which most of them are, you could generally get NetBird going on them. If you move the wife's devices to something that doesn't work, she may move you to the sofa. That's a definite thing there. Tunneling IPsec or VPN is a normal requirement for me, but due to networks blocking IPsec. Yeah. That is a thing that may happen. It's crazy easy to use. I think people like, yeah, that's the biggest thing is the simplicity of it. That's where the UniFi's really done a good job, and a big picture of what they do is just making devices that just work, and devices that don't have subscriptions. Those are two things that the market wants: is working devices and working devices that don't force you into some weird cloud subscription. I'd say the bigger problem with work from home is normally means they want you to be home geographically close to some office. Not necessarily. No, some of the work from home, and I think it's probably just because they're worried about, and this is valid. Let's say, and I knew some of the people working in the financial industry deal with this. If you're working with and you have sensitive information on your laptop or your computer, just in general, because of the nature of you working for a financial company that processes financial transactions, that is other people's data, mortgage processing or whatever that might be, that's fine working from home. There's a real problem, though, if you're working in a coffee house, because I don't know where you're sitting. You're processing my mortgage and you're a remote worker, and that's fine. But if you're in a coffee house and there's someone sitting behind you, are they also seeing all my data? That's kind of why these companies put the restrictions, because they expecting your home environment to be a little bit more private. Not to say that there might not be some people within your home doing it. We're actually laughing. Someone was sitting in the corner of a coffee shop, and they were doing exactly that. They were clearly remote workers, and they had medical data pulled up. Now, the corner of the coffee shop was the glass corner, and me and my buddy were standing outside, and he taps me and he goes, "Hey, look," because we're just standing there. I think we're in Chicago, and he's like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Huh." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to stare at this, but wow, that person has medical stuff pulled up." How do you configure your Wi-Fi on your clients? Multiple SSIDs, private pre-shared keys. I'm using PPSK, and it's amazing. Generally, just your standard WPA3. For most systems, I find that completely adequate and fine. Any news when are we pushing the X06 update? Sometime in January. Tailscale really cemented place with me because of tail drop, like airdrop out for everything. Yeah. I did a whole video on the UniFi cybersecure subscription. I think the filtering part's kind of cool. If you need granular filtering, gotta get those words out right. Yes, it's cool. I like it. I would recommend it. If you don't need the granular filtering, I mean, it's got some other security features. I don't know that it's inexpensive, so it's kind of up to you if it's worth it. I think they put it at a really good price. So the price makes it very reasonable to use, but yeah, the filtering is probably, to me, the bigger selling point of it. If you're not going to use that, it just gives you more fine-grained control over what you can filter. No, it's not a tax problem. As someone who employs remote people from time to time, that's not a tax issue. when people are employed, and at least here in the United States, maybe it's different in other countries, but they have to provide me what they claim is where they live, which I'll verify with some type of government issued ID. So if you claim to live in a particular city and state, I will base your taxes on that information. If you choose to move and not you have to inform government bodies where you are filing things. So it's not really a me problem, it's kind of a them problem. I think PMF is on by default in UniFi, but I could be wrong. That's the PMF is protected management frames. It protects you from potentially people de-authing. So I don't know much about the GLI net, like whether or not they've been truly audited. So how much you trust them? I don't think they're doing anything nefarious, but I don't think they are is not the same as someone has actually looked into their firmware and really poked at it. So it's hard for me to say. How's image working for you? Is it possible to store your photos in your NAS versus on a VM? I always store them on the NAS. I do not store photos in a VM. That's a terrible idea. So all my photos are stored on a NAS. I happen to be running image in my Docker VM, but it mounts my NAS. And I might move image over to my NAS. I was just doing it in a Docker VM when I was setting it up, but it worked. It seems to, I also have an instance on TrueNAS that seems to be working, and I might just move to that. So the cybersecure works pretty well. You're using NextDNS from the router. Cybersecure lets you know what devices is generating traffic, easier than setting up a bunch of pie holes. Yeah. In the UK, you should validate if the home worker has a safe environment to work in, including desk and ergonomics. Thoughts on FileCloud? We're locked into MSAD local file service due to legacy needs. I don't know. I've not used FileCloud, so I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I wouldn't, I mean, a VM with a physical disk connected to it sounds, I mean, you can rig things together and make it work. The problem is stuffing massive amounts of data into a single drive is its own risk because of failure. But when you're dealing with something like image, I mean, I have 56,000 photos. I don't want 56,000 photos inside a virtual machine because that would be very burdensome on the drive within the virtual machine. So my VM boots up and mounts that. But if you go, well, I'm only managing 100 photos, then that probably doesn't matter. So, I mean, you can, it's not that you can't do it. It just seems like I would not want to manage it that way. This is more enterprise, but if you use 802.1x function with UniFi on the wireless networks and switches, I think we've had in the past a couple people we did 802.1x with for the Wi-Fi. It's as far as I know, it works. I haven't really spent a lot of time with it. What protocol do you use to mount your NAS to the image VM? I use NFS. I use NFS. Wait, no, I'm using SMB. I had a weird problem in Debian where it would not want to mount properly unless I built it as a systemd mount option. The normal mount options were failing for what I can only appear because I could make it pause and do it. It's kind of a weird bug. The Debian VM would boot so fast, it would get to the part where it's supposed to do the mount. It would fail because it booted before the networking was ready. So I tried putting a delay in for the networking and it kept failing unless I put a really long delay in. And I said, well, I was kind of like working for a solution on this. It turns out building a systemd mount instead of your normal mount command, that fixed it. Because then you can say in the systemd unit, you can say depend on networking being up, and that solved the problem. What version of Suricata is embedded in UniFi? That's a good question that I can probably answer. So let's go ahead and SSH into my UniFi. As I'm curious, I don't know what version they're embedding in it. So is it just version, TAC version? Suricata 6.0.12. 6.0.12. I don't know what the latest one is, but I can tell you that's the one in the UniFi. Canonical MAA. I think I've heard that a long time ago when it came out. I remember I was at a Linux conference when they were talking about that in a while ago. I've never used it though. It was pretty neat, and Packer's pretty cool too. Yep, Suricata 6.02. Suricata is the intrusion detection system. It's a very popular IDS system for many firewalls. So lots of firewalls, when they say IDS, they're not inventing the IDS. Generally, they're using one of the IDSs from either Suricata or Snort. Snort is one of the OG IDS systems. It's been around forever. Eventually, Suricata is kind of, I don't know if it was exactly forked, but loosely based on, they can use a lot of the same rule sets. Yeah, I don't remember why that failed. I remember trying that. I remember that not working. And so I was just having it mount because I had several things that were dependent on that. So maybe I'll go back and poke at that again. It's on my to-do list. It's one of those, once I got it working with a system demount, I didn't try that, but maybe I should try it there. Which VPN to protect all your traffic on ISP? Does it cover a streaming service? If it doesn't, I don't care. So I think people over-index on the need to do that. I'm all for privacy, but I also don't shove everything out my privacy VPN because I don't want a terrible internet experience. So there may be things I would like to browse via privacy VPN, but my general Google searches, which do include recently looking up certain slat boards I needed for this. We've also been looking at several ideas for finishing the bar in my basement. Like the generic searches that I do, I don't care. I'd rather have a good internet experience than try to stuff them all out of things. I mean, now they do know, as you as well, I'm rebuilding the bar in my basement, and that I don't worry about too much. So there are trade-offs. The same thing with gaming. I do not, especially because of latency, if I'm playing games. I don't play a ton of games. I'm trying to find some time to play some more. But when I'm playing games, kind of the same thing. I don't want that going out of privacy VPN. So I use PIA and Proton. Now, if there are things that I want privacy VPN for, I have devices that are sending that data out the privacy VPN. What are those things I'm sending out there? Well, I'm not telling you either. So I am selective on what does or does not go through privacy VPN. But I've used Proton and PIA, and both of them seem perfectly fine. Could you do a video on system demounting? I don't know. Maybe. Looks like the default PMF setting is optional. The others are required and disabled. Okay. Your image VM is independent of my image storage. I can spin it up anywhere and will just work because I use NFS in my Docker image. Hopefully, yeah, that's kind of an idea. Like that's for me. I can move my Docker VM anywhere as long as it's able to get to my TrueNAS that the data lives on. So often in tech, a temporary a temporary, there's nothing more permanent in tech than a temporary fix. Mostly NFS is for servers, so I wouldn't say not for servers. Go the other way around, Docker Container starts and sees the empty folder because NFS failed to mount and boot, then issues can happen. Best to use NFS to find volumes and compose native. Yeah, no, that's fair. I agree with you on that. To use AdGuard hosting your NAS or separate Docker. I do not bother with that. I'm just pushing things over to Quad 9. So encrypted DNS over to Quad 9 to me is adequate. I mean, some people may think they want a lot more privacy than that, but for me, I'm happy with the level of protection I have from Quad 9, and I don't have to run any weird third-party things. Quad 9 does a great job. Ooh, what are your thoughts on UniFi Protect as an alarm system? I don't know that that's a tough one. I mean, it's not exactly the same as having a proper call-out alarm system. So it works pretty good. I've been really, so the thing I will say more than anything else, that I have some follow-up videos coming since they just released 6.2. The UniFi Protect system has an incredibly low false positives, which is wonderful. And I've been, using it at different clients for a while, and it's just really impressive, the overall accuracy it has. I still have a separate alarm system that has police and fire. So a few days ago, I looked at OpenStack, which is hypervisor where you can create multiple clients. Each client only has VMs too. Yes, OpenStack's another popular choice out there. I don't have a use case for it, but I mean, you can use it if you like it. Any thoughts on a Tailscale? I didn't know there was a Tailscale outage, so I don't have any thoughts on it. Yeah, the internet has, here's the thing, even if you hosted NetBirds yourself, where do you host it at that you don't have outages? I mean, that's where the challenge comes down to. I mean, granted, the outage will be your problem and you'll have more control over dealing with it, unless you dealt with, like my friend did, where someone cut all the fiber and he was out for 42 hours because the fiber got cut. And he self-hosts a lot of things. He couldn't do anything because until the fiber, both his fiber feeds got cut because of a lot of reasons, or I don't know exactly all that happened. A little fuzzy. So is AT&T. Why would you use a privacy pin and then use Google? Well, no, people really, the point I was making is people over-index on trying to hide everything from their ISP. Your ISP, I mean, maybe they sell some of your DNS. I don't know. I mean, it all depends on what I'm looking up. Oh, yeah. Today is Thursday. Have you done much with Vios? Nope, and I don't plan to. I don't have any. My day-to-day job doesn't. Vios is really popular in the data centers, and I get its use case and where it fits in, but it's not. I don't work with that a lot. I understand where it can be effective, but it's not where I do my work. Can we geek out about ZFS? The stream, I love when you and Wendell discuss it. Super fascinating. I do love talking about ZFS. Yeah. Cloudflare's had a couple outages and the same thing. You just got to figure out, know your dependencies when you set these things up. If you build things on Cloudflare tunnels, you are now married to Cloudflare and whatever policies they change or whatever outages they have. That may be fine for you. That may not be. It comes down to, is that something that's acceptable risk for you? I've known a lot of people that built a lot of business infrastructure using Cloudflare tunnels, and they were having a real bad time when Cloudflare had their big outage a couple weeks back. It's the risk of it. Of course, when AWS East falls over, everyone's having a really bad day because it seems like most of the internet or all the important things, at least, especially IoT garbage, seems to all run on AWS East. So when that falls over, so does all the related services. So there is where the dependencies are. Yeah. Self-hosted, a couple fiber ISPs, sell backup and Starlink. Then you just lose power. Yeah. True. Well, this is why I don't think it works very good as a travel router, except for it just does NAT and firewalls. So there's not it that like I said, I'm gonna Techno Tim had his review, and so is Cody. I think both of them covered that. It works best and has features that only are really available if you have it with the UniFi device. It's actually amazing how reliable it is, considering how complex it is. It's amazing how reliable it is, considering the fact that BGP is so fragile. And if you think there's DNS problems, the more you learn about BGP, the more you just end up scratching your head going, that's how this works? These people just agreed on things and the internet keeps going? Oh, man. What are you looking forward to learning this year? I don't know. I don't know that it's a specific thing that I'm looking forward to learning as much as a overall, like, just I'm always excited about learning all the new things. There's not like I don't throw a target out there to say, oh, I'm going to learn Kubernetes. By the way, not on the list at all. I don't have a need for Kubernetes, so I'm not learning it. But I don't usually do it that way. I'm usually just focused on, like, what are the problems that have to be solved, and I start with that. Like, there's the goal. The goalpost is over there, but there's things in my way. What are those things? I got to learn how to do this or do that. And I've always done that because it's easier for me not to try to learn a specific technology, but I want to apply that technology to reach a goal. And that is often how my learning path goes, because I got a thing I want to do. I'm probably going to do some 3D printing. I have not really done 3D printing. So I'm only going to say, I say 3D printing, but I actually have a few things I want to print. So the actual goal isn't 3D printing at all. It's I have a thing I want to print. I have an organizer I want to build with the 3D printer. I have a 3D printer. So now I'm going to have to learn how to use a 3D printer because I know what the organizer looks like, but I can't get to the organizer until I get to the 3D printer. Oh, yes. Border Gateway Protocol, a new rabbit hole for sure. My friends over at the Serial Port have a video on that. So, yes, that's definitely a fun thing. They have you should watch all the Serial Ports videos. I was just on a live stream with them. I am going down the rabbit hole even more of Home Assistant. That's definitely on there. I have more switches on order. One thing I was hesitant on, I didn't want it until I thought it was really good, was my light switch right there. I always had it as a normal switch because the overhead lights are only partial to what goes on in here in terms of lighting. But I finally got around to finding a good dimmer switch that worked with it by Brighton that now controls all the lighting in here in a more automated way. I really like automating all the lighting. Now, I do not, the part that is, because Wendell likes this and I'm not a big fan of it. I don't want to talk to my computer ever. I want my presence in the room to control lights and function of things. And I don't mind touching a button here and there. Matter of fact, this is also a little Zigbee button that I use. And if you look at my Home Assistant video, I've got a whole parts list of all the things I have, but I like just being able to like touch one little button and have all the action happen. So that's kind of more my use of the home assistant. I love automations. I just want all the top of my house, so the upstairs is all controlled by Home Assistant. So I also use Home Assistant combined with my UniFi camera system. So anytime there's people in my yard, in my close enough where they're on my property, UniFi triggers and turns all the lights on, notifies me. So that's why I know the false positives are so low on it, because it's done such a great job. It's like, hey, there's a person in your driveway, and it can let me know that information right away. It works good. You want to be able to swear at your computer without it responding. That's a fair thing. Do you think TP-Link is a national security concern? I don't know about well, in a way. So it's kind of a problem, but not in the way that you necessarily think, but it's really hard to say because it could change. TP-Link themselves has tried to make themselves feel separate from China. But as we know right now, that there are some concerns of the adversarial, in less partner and more adversarial relationship between two countries right now. So if a country is producing software, could they produce it as a threat with an update? Sure, that's a possibility. The bigger threat is, and I pointed out recently, TP-Link was ignoring security researchers. I posted about that. I posted in my forums about it. It was a discussion I had last week. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I posted it there. But the problem is TP-Link has had a history of ignoring security problems. And I don't think necessarily right now, could be changed in the future, but I actually don't think they're being malicious. I think they're being lazy, because fixing security features is an expense. You have to go take a device that you already made your money selling and then go spend money on engineering to fix a problem with the device and send out the update to it. That is an expense. Companies are trying to make money, so they are avoiding expenses like that. This is not just true of TP-Link, by the way. Where this is a bigger problem is TP-Link is the low, inexpensive, found everywhere, cheap boxes. And when these cheap boxes get infected, they can then be used to attack things. And botnets, generally speaking, when they infect routers of that type, they don't disable the functionality of the router because the user would be bothered by this, but they are able to hijack the functioning router to use it for nefarious things. So they can cause chaos by breaking the internet in a geographic region, and internal DDoS is really hard to protect from. So it's easy to say, all right, we're going to block these other countries from attacking. But when you have an army of routers that are internal to the US, all running TP-Link software with some flaw that's been exploited in them, now the attack comes from inside the domain of the US, therefore very hard to block. Because what's the difference between a normal user accessing a service and all the users accessing a service that are also from the same geographic region? That's the bigger threat they really pose. I don't know that there's an easy answer to that as a problem, but it is a problem. TP-Link doesn't update software, especially around security. Complete garbage. Yeah. Does any consumer switches, router, firewalls get updates ever? Seems 80% of the companies do not. Oh, yeah. There's a ton of, TP-Link dominates, but generally speaking, all the consumer stuff is pretty bad. UniFi is among the few companies that make some relatively inexpensive routers that actually auto update out of the box. The default, it's been this way for a little while for UniFi. It's one of the reasons I recommend them to home users. I mean, they default update, set it and forget it. I just had a client reach out to me that they reached out and they needed some help with the router. And they said, the person doesn't work anymore to set all this up, but we're having a problem, but we remember they contacted you. They did 5 years ago and the system was still up to date. because it was on, the person had the auto updates turned on. So they had been updating it. And when that person left, they started calling us. But it was kind of cool that the system wasn't that far out of date because they had the auto updates turned on. Yeah, I think the Arrow ones. Now, some of the ones that are probably forcing you to the cloud, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's how Arrow works. Like, it always is cloud connected. I think those have updates. But you look at the stuff from UniFi. Hey, let's see if this breaks the stream. The streams are working fine, so let's share the screen and see if that's. I wonder if this is what causes the stream to break. Let's find out. But this little box here for $199, that's a reasonably priced box for home users. Is it this one? Or wait. I think this one's even better at but $279 might be pushing it more than users want. I don't know. But I think this one here at $199 is not a terrible price. Yeah, once UniFi got to even version 8, version 6 to 7, there was some issues. But once you got to version 8, and then after that, going into 9 and 10 here has been really smooth. So UniFi has improved their process like dramatically. Yeah, the Cloud Gateway Fiber is a good box. Yeah, Cloud Gateway Max works. This definitely, like Focal Fury says here, it's definitely a great one for family members, because I actually have friends and family members. That's what I've done, is got them Cloud Gateway Maxes. Haven't seen you in a year, man. Been since last year. PF Sense does not do automatic updates. PF Sense has never done. Matter of fact, something interesting about PF Sense is I wish they would do. Let me pull it up here. Because even right now, I'm going to log in my PF Sense. So this takes a second. Got to put in all these passwords. Matter of fact, exactly why, like right here, system patches. There's no way to auto update this. So I know there's new system patches available. So let's go ahead and update them. Like, they don't have this automated. I think PF Sense will let you skip versions, but double check. They'll list that for, depending on how behind you are, you have to go to their site and look, and I think they tell you which ones you can do. Now, all I did was update the system patches, which also means now if I go here to the patches, there's more patches to apply. And there's clearly something going wrong here. Oh, certificate. Certificates. We got to renew it. Yeah, renew. That'll give an error. Parents just got a retirement house in Florida. Going to set them on the UDR7. Makes remote support easier from New York. Yes, absolutely. Definitely would recommend. I seem to have broke it. There we go. Come on. It won't let me click this. Browser stuck. That's all right. We'll go back to just sharing in our tab and close it. I'll let the PF Sense do its thing. You forgot how old PF Sense looks. Yeah. Oh yeah, the UniFi site to site, the UniFi multi-site. Oh yeah, definitely really nice. They're working on improving that a lot. They have some new features coming out soon for that. Yay, it's back. It took a second to reload the certificate. But yeah, there's no auto update in here. As for the cost, it's sort of like backups. May seem expensive until you have to deal with the issue, and then you wish you would have spent the few dollars. Yeah. Always back up. Something else kind of cool that not everybody realizes until you have a handful of people in your controller is you can do this. UniFi will break down across all your clients all the different ISPs and their latency. So there's a few sites on Comcast and AT&T, ComNet, Comcast Business, Spectrum, Verizon, and some place called AltaFiber. So you can do graph average latency, uptime. Let's go for a week. So you can see what the latency is across all your different ISPs, across all your different sites. This is a nice feature that they have if you're managing things, because if you know there's a problem with, Comcast is always concerning. Yes, they are. PF Sense has a cert manager, but no auto updating. They also have a cert manager that doesn't auto do search. You have to do those manually as well. Yeah. Comcast is concerning. I think the UniFi site manager puts things at concerning all the time, but I like the fact that you can just kind of view this. They have some more stuff they're doing around this for their ISP viewer, but it's cool that they do this. We switch over to my sites. Everyone on mine's all on Wide Open West, which says concerning, but I think if I change it to 1 day, it's not. Some packet loss detected. Whatever. My latency was bad at once. I have recently discovered Ubiquiti rebranded to UniFi as I look for when I got an EdgeRouter 4 compared against the Hex S for my first 1G fiber. Yeah, Ubiquiti's pretty much. So Ubiquiti still exists as a legal entity name for them because that's what they're publicly traded under, I think, is the stock code UI. But yeah, they are now essentially everything they do is now just under the name UniFi. RAID is not a backup. Yep. I should do this more often. I'm not the best marketer for my own things, but here, look, there's a shirt that says RAID's not a backup. I'm sure it's in this list of shirts that we have on our website. We'll go to t-shirts. Hey, look, RAID's not a backup. Available for $24. Shop.lawrencesystems.com. There's my promotional plug. I don't do the promotional plug very often. Lawrence.video/swag or shop.lawrencesystems.com. Either one's fine. Oh, by the way, while I'm popping up banners, do visit the forums. There's always lots of people chatting away in there for things. Lots of good discussion. That's the forums.lawrencesystems.com. You need a reprint of the sysadmin train spotting shirt. Yeah, I got to show a little merch every now and then. Yeah, UniFi's got a Shopify integration, which is interesting. With the current UniFi gateway features, is a firewall needed? I would say no. I mean, a firewall is fine. I think it's a little weird. And I say a little weird because firewall is controlled via like a phone interface to set it up. I don't know. They're novel, but I don't really feel, I mean, they're a good consumer product. I don't really feel they are even a prosumer project. They're just kind of basic. They've been around for a while. They've lasted longer than I expected them to. I did this video about broken cloud promises years ago, and that was the challenge. Is a lot of these companies made a lot of claims, and Firewall was among the firewall companies, and they actually managed to stay in business. Because a lot of these ones that use phone and they have like an initial cloud setup and then use a phone. I don't know. I don't know enough about exactly how they work today. Maybe they've changed it. Maybe they have a web interface. I don't know. If you are using it and you're happy with it, fantastic. Keep using it. Have you ever used the new UniFi stuff with MikroTik? The Cloud Gateway Fiber seems to be a good boundary router compared to non-rack mount MikroTik routers. I mean, you can use it with MikroTik if you need to set up VLANs between switches and things like that. They're both following RFC standards, so they're able to talk to each other. And MikroTik, though, is kind of a niche. The niche is you need high-performing, inexpensive hardware that you don't mind fiddling with to get to work. They don't have any good central management. They don't have any good layer 7 features at all like UniFi does, and they just don't have a great interface at all for managing their equipment. But MikroTik becomes a popular choice for people going, hey, I need a switch that can do this really fast switching for my storage network, and people will build it out as a separate dedicated piece of the storage network, or maybe set it up as in a resilient manner with failover. And man, you can't touch other companies' prices for what MikroTik sells that for with that functionality. That functionality, though, can be a little bit harder to get going and a little bit more challenging to get set up. Maybe that's fine because it's not like you're setting them up all the time, and it's worth the challenge to get your storage network routing really, really fast for a good price. So I don't think MikroTik's bad. They just come with the quirks of MikroTik. Yeah, it's not quite Cisco, is it? It's their own version. It's a command line interface, but it's not quite as Cisco. So the commands you know and love may not work. I debated. I was going to do some MikroTik videos, but it just isn't worth the time poking and learning with it. It doesn't give enough advantages to people. My other reason for doing them, for me to learn them, I started learning MikroTik by watching MikroTik's videos and realized they do a good job. Their documentation and their videos and training videos are out there. So I think the challenge is people go, but Tom, and let's look at the, let's go over to YouTube and look. Let me, I didn't know they had a podcast, but let's look at their playlists. they have a lot of videos that show you how to set up, they have a full VLAN playlist and setting up containers, and which is great, and as they should. So if you want to learn about MikroTik, you can use their site for training. That's why I decided, why do the training when they have videos that are from the people making the software. MikroTik is not trying to be a next-gen router firewall. No, they are not. They're trying to be fast, feature-rich, reliable routing and switching platform, which I think they've done. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, I don't like when the ecosystem only has one company. This is a challenge I really feel. I have one of the videos I might release because it's targeted at people designing network equipment. And it's kind of like, hey, vendors, let's have a talk. How do you compete with UniFi? It's really simple, because all these companies are terrible. And that's what we keep going nuts on, is like, we're celebrating UniFi because they're actually listening to us. They're giving us things without subscriptions, and they don't force us into cloud registration, and they direct sale it. So you can actually buy the product without having to go through some reseller program that doesn't make any sense. Now, when companies have reached out to me, most recently, when I think maybe a year or two ago, Alta Labs reached out to, like, we're going to be the UniFi killer. And 2 years later, they're not. And they also really pushed cloud first. And then they charge, and when I think they finally backed off of it, even their controller that only controls their software, they charge money for, which even when they, I think they've reduced it to free for now to get their controller, but it also requires a cloud registration to activate it. I'm like, I even said that to him. I said, UniFi gives their controller away for free, right? And it does more than yours. This is the part I have, like, as much as I agree with you that UniFi is a challenge because it's kind of sucked up all the space, and it's not like people think that just because a bunch of YouTubers are talking about it, that's why UniFi is popular. The problem is, I can't find the other company that gives me the same features for the same price and without a cloud lock-in. This cloud lock-in problem is really an issue. Like, every company wants you to tie to their cloud, sell on a subscription that you already know they will slowly turn the knobs until you pay more, because you are a recurring revenue stream for all the investors. And it drives me nuts. I don't spend as much time on my channel ranting, because there's plenty of people who are really good at it, like Louis Rossman. And I agree with, I don't watch all of his stuff because I don't always have time to listen to rants. So in case he said something egregious, I'm not going to say I agree with everything Louis Rossman said. But when I've heard him rant on things, I feel it. I agree with him. He's right. He's spot on by a lot of this stuff. These companies are just obnoxious. And so UniFi is like a breath of fresh air when they're not doing that. Yeah, I think it would be a cool option. I wouldn't mind honestly, I don't know why MikroTik's not doing that. It seems like that would be a good next step for them, to create a central management tool and give people the control they want. And I think that would be something people would really like. Wi-Fi updates equipment should be enough money for money stream for most companies. It's endless, but we need more bandwidth. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know what that answer really is, because UniFi is a company that clearly makes some good money. Let's see. At this time, without charging subscriptions, the market cap right now is $33 billion company, and they're not charging subscriptions, and they're profitable. That's wild. But then again, you got other people looking at that going, they're not charging subscriptions. Huh. They could be $100 billion company or a $200 billion company if they did. If they just charge people more money, if they did a rug pull and started charging for access to all these features, they could be making more money. And that's true. So is 33 billion enough? Or, I know that's not their total revenue. I know it's just a market capitalization, but you kind of see what I'm talking about. Meraki's part of Cisco. And Cisco currently is 304 billion. So very different. So yeah, Meraki's a lot, because it's part of Cisco, but once again, and Cisco's obviously a bigger company because Cisco sells even more things than UniFi. Well, Meraki used to be their own company. Cisco bought Meraki, but they left the Meraki name because people were using it and liked the name or whatever. They have brand familiarity. They're all just part of the consolidation. Yes. In a world that demands infinite growth, every company eventually faces pressure to extract more and more from their customers. Yes and no. It is a decision of the person who owns the company. They do not have to do that. And this is where Rob, CEO of Robert, CEO of UniFi Ubiquity, has chose not to do this. He's been very clear that he has enough. And that's the difference. There are people who can choose to say they have had enough. But many don't. They just want the number to get bigger. Number must go up and to the right forever. And if you're of that mindset and you're only caring about the number, not the technology, then yeah, that's the only solution is for people to, how do we make more money? How do we make more money? The line must go up. We got to keep the money going up. You don't have to be that way, but some people are driven not by the love of producing a service or a product that people want. They are in love with only making more. And I don't understand that mentality because I've not been that way myself. I try to keep all my things as reasonable as possible. I know there's many, many things I could do to make more money, and I choose not to do a lot of them because at some point I would just rather make people happy. But considering Cisco's basically had a stranglehold on the enterprise for longer than I've been alive, the market cap only being 10x. UniFi is embarrassing. I don't know. That's fuzzy. UniFi is publicly traded. Yes, I don't see how they get away with not being enshittified. That's actually easier than you think. You are not obligated to enshittify just because you're publicly traded. It comes down to how you maintain control of your company and whether or not you do maintain control of your company. There are, and this is where it gets a little bit fuzzier. Not all companies are set up the same way. For example, Facebook is completely enshittified because Mark Zuckerberg is an awful human being and not because of their stock. Their stock is dual class stock. So they have preferential treatment and therefore Mark has the preferential stock. And so do several other founders. That way, the market doesn't drive them as much, and they're able to do the things they do, like make an entirely hellscape of leglessness, whatever that thing was when he thought the metaverse was the future. Yeah, he was able to pursue that at massive amounts of revenue being spent on it to never go anywhere other than make a really dumb, stupid thing that finally, I think at least some percentage of people may have forgotten about. But that's why he's able to do that, is he maintains high levels of control. So you can set up high levels of control, and you can set up so your stock, even though it's publicly traded, will not cause your company to be enshittified. It comes down to keeping the right visionaries at the company that have a vision to create a good product and not just make money forever. So it's just, yeah. Or Valve. There's another one. So Valve seems like a good company because they're private. Yeah, Valve is a company that's the Steam and everything else. I mean, they make probably some of the most revenue per employee of any company, and they've done an amazing amount of public good. I I don't. There's just I think as long as Gabe Newell's in charge of that stays that way. I don't know what happens when Gabe Newell's not in charge of that, and that would be bad. I don't know that anyone can do it the way he does it. Um, they've done it with UDM in the past. It's also required. So you said you cannot use. I didn't know this. Are you sure you can't use the Face ID without it? I haven't looked into that. I'm guessing there's because some laws around it. Why would Ubiquity stock go down 25%? Oh, because um lots of companies stock. Look at the markets then. The markets went down because I have a lot of investment in too many tech stocks and it hurt. They're not lots of companies went down in that time. So there was some stock changes. That happens sometimes. I don't play this. I try to invest. I don't play constantly in the stock market. So I do a investment, but not a I don't actively play it all the time, I should say. I don't spend too much time thinking about the stock market. Yeah, I don't follow it too much closely. Yeah, I'll have to poke at that. I didn't know the facial recognition thing. I have to test that. Overall, the Ubiquity facial recognition is pretty good, but a lot of the big limitation on facial recognition is often placement of cameras. I I can recognize his face as most humans can when you're looking at a similar eye level to their face. But as cameras go at angles, look down at people, it doesn't work as good. So that is I've talked to a lot of people about that. They want better facial recognition. I'm like, lower the camera. They're like, what? I like the camera up there. I'm like, yeah, but that's looking down at their face at that angle. It does a much worse job of understanding their face. So that's the trick to getting that right. Yeah, who knows? Now 2026 shutting down because of lack of memory. Is 2026 out of memory? Is that going to be the theme? Or is that just a theme for January? Yes, you can do hairline recognition. Yeah, I can have it recognize I'm looking at all the detections. I was looking at face detections, yeah. Yes, dual class stock also avoids crappy corporate raiders from coming in and pushing for pure revenue. Yes, but as I pointed out in the case of Asus, or it's not Asus, as it is in the case of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg turns out to be the awful human being. He doesn't need any help being awful. Isn't Asus going to start manufacturing RAM? I heard. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with like what's going to happen with the RAM, other than it's real expensive. Some OEMs saying memory stock will continue. Stock issue could continue in 2027. Yeah, I haven't deeply investigated, but generally speaking, the challenge becomes how do you ramp something up fast? So by the way, great video if you want to watch it. Let me pull this up so I can share it with the crowd here. So Veritasium just released a good video I watched. It says the ridiculous engineering of the world's most important machine. This is going on how they make the microchips, which of course is similar to how they make memory. But this is a good video to show you just how complicated the machines are that make it. And this is something that makes it really challenging when you say, hey, let's just start another fabrication plant. Great. If you broke ground today, it's not going to be a product for 3 or 4 years. So if a company is getting into it, great. What level of fabrication are they at now? What's their ability to produce those chips, or how long and how far out are they from actually getting something out the door that works? Yeah. And this is why I kind of bring up this video. There's not many companies that have the technology to build this. This machine is like $500 million just to build these chips. So, and they need more than one, if I'm not mistaken, to do all this. Yeah, a few big YouTube. I think just because chip manufacturing is really interesting. That's the real challenge. Yeah, I've seen other people that watched it. 2026, will the AI bubble burst? We can only hope. We can only hope someone goes, hey, spending money at the way they're doing it for a product that isn't really that popular and that costs more to operate than people are willing to pay for because it doesn't quite do the thing you want, turns out to be maybe not a good idea, that we, just take over massive amounts of farmland to keep putting data centers in, and running all the money up out of people to buy memory. Yeah, I can rant about it, but I won't. Let's not get too off topic. What I will do, let me look at my media assets here. Where's my little be right back button? Oh, this is new. I can do bass. I can do a gong, a bounce. I'm looking at all the sound options. Interesting. That's not what I'm looking for, but it's cool that I have these things. All right. I have a be right back bowl roll. I need to go get something to drink, and then I will be right back to continue the live stream. I'm having a great conversation with all of you, so I'll queue up all the questions. Oh, it's a $300 million machine going into a $1 billion fab facility. I thought the number was bigger than that. I just watched it last night, but I was tired. I thought they said $500 million, but maybe it is. Maybe it is 300 million. You guys can correct me on that. And by the time I get back, someone can answer this. What are the privacy security issues with the GLINet routers? I haven't taken one. I don't have one to test. So I don't know. But in the meantime, let me throw this be right back, and I'll be right back. And I'm back. There we go. Yeah, the history of microchip lithography is in the U.S. is interesting as well, for sure. The Veritasium video also shows the importance of government investment research, both which have been cut drastically. Yes. Bell Labs and the whole history of everything that came from all of that, because that was so much in the 40s and the 50s. We invested heavily in massive amounts of research that really brought about a lot of these things. And that has been a relationship for years that, when done well, and we've had a history of doing it well, brings you to the forefront of technologies by investing in the science, the education. It's just, yeah. If you can't change the name of the camera with a baseball bat and the cable can't be accessed, I'm listening to some context there. I'm also hearing about the issue of GLINet. Yeah, I've heard twice someone ask about it here. I don't have one to test or it's a camera bad again. Oh no. It's broke. Do I have to reload the page? Is it broke for just a couple people, or is it broke for everybody again? Hard to say. I got to admit, once OBS starts working, it keeps working. I'll say that for OBS. It's broke for all. Let me try reloading the page. All right. So I'm correct. It's 400 mil, but is my camera 400 million? Are we on the money on the camera? Better. All right. I guess maybe after I share, I don't know. Strange. I mean, it says the stream is going good. You are live stream. It gives me green. Green is good, right? All right. So sometimes I'll just if it does it again, we start it, we reload the page and it's happy. Or reboot the computer. I don't know. Now you can read my reflection in there. Good luck. Which is strange. I mean, the camera focus should be separate, because I was pointing out earlier, the camera's this is all real. This is a really shallow depth of field cinema camera. It's got a f1.8 lens on it, I think. Strange. Anyways, let's keep talking networking. Speaking of MikroTik, I happen to have one on my desk. I was moving things around. I still really like this one. This is their little, hold on, gotta find the model number. Oh, is it reversed for you too? I just realized, or is it, GLINet only allows some routers to use stock OpenWRT, uses their own dynamic DNS servers, and need to use vendor login account. That I didn't know. I don't have a GLINet travel router to test it. Okay, so it's not reversed for you? Okay, cool. Yeah, I still think, and man, there's not a lot of switches you can get that are 10 gig that are like this. I mean, MikroTik just does a nice job. It's metal. It works. It still gets firmware updates. I've had this like 5 years. I use it when I'm building lab things out, but I'm really impressed with how well it works. Like I said, MikroTik does like a nice job on that. And they're newer, what do you call those? Like I think they got some 400 gig ones. Like the price point on them is still really good. You have the CRS 505 as your core switch, pondering switching either an 8-port MikroTik or an UniFi aggregation switch. I personally like the UniFi switches being all in one place. So I only have one dashboard to see everything, but it comes down to what's your budget? Because if your budget doesn't support that, don't just spend money for the sake of spending money. But I do have the Pro aggregation switch, and it works great. I'm not using many ports in it, but like my 2 hypervisors, I actually have 3 hypervisors. The other one's just turned off right now, but 3 hypervisors all plugged in at 25 gig. Oh, this one's set up as a bond. That's actually turned off right now. But I've had no problems with it. It's been a solid switch. On the MikroTik, there are 4 10 gig ports on this model. This is an old model. It's been around for a long time. Focus. There we go. So you got 4 10 gig ports and a 5th port that is only 1 gig, but it's also PoE. Oh, it's great for setting up like 10 gig between a couple devices, man. It's awesome. Oh, their product naming is a mouthful. That's for sure. Yeah, and you can use the 1 gig port as a regular port too. It doesn't only do management. I think it's labeled. It's labeled ETH boot. I thought it was labeled management. It says ETH boot because it can has some other things. But yes. Does this get hot if you use copper SFPs? Yes. I think MikroTik even has a notice. Don't fill it with copper SFPs unless you like overheating. Those RJ45, specifically RJ45 converters have a lot of heat. So it's not using it with like DAC or fiber that's a problem. But if you're using it for an RJ45 converter, yes. It's generally a problem. I mean, even in a UniFi system, if you start stacking, and I have one in here right now, but if you start stacking a bunch of those SFP adapters in there, the conversion ones, they get warm when you switch to 10 gigs. I still have this older switch. This one works really good. I've got a handful of switches. I'm really liking the UDB switch. Oh, I reset it. I had a lot more data going through it. I had this up to, I don't know, like 100 terabytes of data that I've done over this. It's down to very little right now. But this is the wireless switch. This thing's it just works. I'm going to do a video on that one soon. That is the UDB switch, meshing to the E7. What's kind of neat about it, because it will mesh to different devices, is it doesn't miss a beat. So I can mesh it, show you a stream coming off of it, reboot one of my Wi-Fi, it'll jump immediately to one of the other Wi-Fis. It does a good job of that. How do you feel about the VPN ban proposed in Michigan? So I believe Michigan is on that list. It's an idiot proposal by idiot politicians. Hopefully that clears that up. Do you prefer to retrofit network cable installs in the attic under installs or under the house, or does it matter? It varies. I mean, sometimes they go under the house, sometimes they go over in the attic. When possible, we had some coax. So sometimes, and I'm going to probably help my neighbor with this, they have old 15-year ago, 20-year ago camera system that's got coax, and there are retrofits for it, but we're just going to tie the Cat 5 or Cat 6, the network cable, to the old coax and pull it back through the same path. Moving your home network from Palo Alto to Ubiquiti, should I use PAN as a bump on wire behind cable modem? I mean, if you want to use it for testing, sure, but having multiple firewalls outside of testing, I have lots of firewalls because I'm testing things, but generally you don't need more than one. Happy New Year. You got a 10G Tech SFP Plus transceiver for Christmas. Is anyone ever giving you SFP Plus transceiver for Christmas? I'm planning to stick it in Raspberry Pi to improve its cooling. No, I have not gotten one of those for Christmas. But no one would know to buy me that for Christmas. Also, I don't need one. I have lots of connectors. I like the single pane of glass for VLANs on the UniFi controller. Yes. You're moving your stuff over to GrandStream. Cool. Willie Howe's the only person I really know that does GrandStream videos. And you can answer this because you're a GrandStream user. Is there a required registration for their system? I know they have like a self-hosted controller system. They also have a website that doesn't really do a great job of telling you what all their features are. You got the U7 Pro access point. Anytime plugging in a UniFi's PoE switch, some non-UniFi switches and other parts of their network have spanning tree issues. That is odd. Definitely odd behavior. I do like this feature of UniFi too. Whoops. Pull up a wrong window. There we go. Is you can choose just certain VLANs to figure out what ports they're on. Like what ports are using my storage VLANs, or which ports are using the UniFi Protect devices. Ooh, I got this port on there. I can. Weird. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's when I first set it up, I was using that. So let me go back to allow all. Apply. There we go. Now that one will go away. But yeah, being able to sort things by just their VLANs, very handy. Like what's on CGNAT. All right. Oh, these ones here. Which ports are on lab? Just the bench right now. None of them are set to none. Nothing set to. I have a lot of stuff that's virtual. That's why it's not showing up there. Lots of things are set to this. Let's just show ports in use. This is they've done a nice job of just making this easy to sort out your network. They have a controller that runs in a VM, or they have a switch that will also do the controller services. Okay. Do they charge for it at all, or is it? I'm seeing if you answered it up here. I don't see another. Does it require registration or is it free? I guess that's the question. I'm guessing UniFi access points have spanning tree due to mesh. Yes. Still active if you disable mesh. Should be. Speaking of stapled every 5 feet, my new 2014 construction townhouse stapled Cat 5 down, so you can't use them for Ethernet. Only 3 of the 5. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Your tree view must be insane. Oh, yeah. The tree view for this. Because we show everything. If we rotate it, does it look better? No, it doesn't look better. There's just too many things in here. What icon did I liked? I don't know what icon this is. I like it. Oh, it's an ant miner. That's funny. That's not what that is. It doesn't even know what this is. Oh, that's interesting. It shows the address, my backup system. But yeah, if you show everything on here. This tree view is not, I don't know, it's novel, but you got to really narrow it down to things to make it good. Like, can we find just Tom's? Yeah, this is find my TrueNAS spot. It finds those. But do you ever do 3D floor plan sketches when doing them? For businesses, yes. For home users, no. I want to walk through the process to show people what it looks like, but yes. I'm going to do a whole map of my house and show where my Wi-Fi are. No subscription either. That's awesome. Thank you. So you do have to have an account, but there's no subscription. No, not terrible. I don't love when there's an account. That way, in case the company ever goes out of business, you can't register for the account. UniFi really needs to work on their tree view. It really isn't useful. It sounds like it should be. Yes. It's really cool when you plug in the first few things, and then it becomes completely useless when you plug in all the things. How often do you back up the UniFi controllers and our database? I back up whenever I'm making a bunch of changes. So I would go over to, let me get to the page. So I haven't made any changes, but I would I'll hit back up now. I have it auto doing it once a week, but I'll do a backup right now, and then I'll just hit download and download that backup. But I only after I make, or before, I should say, if I'm going to make a big mess of something, like I'm going to make a bunch of changes, I might do a backup just before those changes. And if I'm happy with the changes, I will hit download and download them. There you go. And then download the backup. But yeah, if outside of when I'm making changes in that, I don't really, that's when I do the backups. I did some research. Some concerns with the GLINet is their firmware, open base with some models lag behind upstream for a long time. So you're depending on GLINet to patch all releases. Yeah. What app do you use for sketches? I'm trying to sketch up. It's free. Phone slide measurements. When we're doing commercial work with companies, they provide us blueprints. So we don't necessarily have to map things out. We go off the builder's blueprints. Now, it's different if we're going to do it. We might just use the Ubiquity tool if we're going to map it ourselves. But often we are working off of construction blueprints because we're doing businesses. That's what I said. For home users, it's different. But we don't. I mean, I consult with home users, and I'm fine with that. I just don't. With limited exceptions, I don't generally have sketches of the houses for the Wi-Fi. I say limited exception because sometimes we are working with individuals who we were building out a quite big house that has really cool blueprints, and then Wi-Fi placement will be done accordingly. I have blueprints to my house, so I can actually upload them because my house was just built in 2020, so I have all the documentation. Makes it a lot easier and a lot nicer. Now, something else I'll be doing soon, is going over one. I'm going to do an updated lab tour for 2026, an office tour, but I'll also talk about all the different things that I'm running. I'm going to do a video on open source notes. I really have become a fan of Joplin, and I know a lot of people are probably wondering about it, or where do you store all your notes and why do you use notes? Why aren't you using a wiki? And there's times when you use wikis and there's times when you use notes, and there's different times for different things. So I'll be doing a video kind of breaking down how a lot of that works. How do you do the wireless bandwidth distance stuff? I would need a more, I guess, what are you asking? Like, how am I doing site to site systems? I mean, it comes down to calculation. What do they need? How much bandwidth they need to get from here to there, et cetera, et cetera. And, we build it out, figure it out, and go from there. Yeah, you're a Joplin user as well. My problem is use various tools to measure with, not written my measurements in the same place. Got distracted, came back, and had to make sense of my own notes. Yes, I like Joplin and note taking when you are, doodling away, doing notes like, hey, I need this or I need that. Or even I mentioned earlier, like we've been doing some remodeling here in the basement. So I've been taking notes on that, and I'll use those notes when I have to head over to the hardware store, and I have them synchronized on my phone. They're all kept in sync really well with Joplin. That's one of the reasons I moved from LogSeek over to Joplin. But the way I'll start out the video, and this is, I don't want to preach to people, but I know a lot of people spend a lot of time trying different note-taking apps. The reason they try so many different note-taking apps is because they don't have a process for taking notes. I am able to switch between applications on which I take notes because I have a process that I take notes with. Is in understanding and building your process is important. People are looking for software to solve a process problem. If you don't have a process, the software can't solve it. So people just kind of hop around. Do I need Notion or Obsidian or whatever, note tool they're trying? And they keep making a mess because they don't have an organized way to keep notes. The most important thing first is have a process, understand how you're going to keep your notes. Then switching note-taking applications, because a lot of them work in a very similar way, becomes just kind of a function of, does it have an import export, or does it have a way to get your data in and out of it? When buying a house, what should you look at tech-wise? Like, not wiring done after year X, I guess. Really, lots of conduit and Cat 6A, but I doubt you find that around here. Yeah, it varies greatly. If you're buying a 100-plus-year-old house, you have really hard time wiring it. If you're buying a house that has drywall versus plaster, so there's no easy way to see what to look for. And a lot of times, my friend just bought a property. and the house is a lot older than he wanted, but he really wanted the property. And the only place he could find the property is with this older house on it. So he knows how much more work the older house will be to do the electronics he wants to do in it. But he's just going, well, I got the property I wanted and the location I wanted. So you don't always get to have as much choice in that unless you're just going to build your own house. Have you tried Papa Wisp with the new Cosmic desktop environment? Yes, I have. Yes, I like it. Yes, it works well. I haven't really had any complaints or problems with it. I think it has a very simplisticness to it, but I can appreciate the simplicity of it. I actually like it quite a bit. It's very snappy and it has not caused me any drama or any problems. I don't know if I feel weird doing a Linux review. I feel maybe I'm not overly qualified for it, but I do use it enough and I've been playing games on it more than anything else. And Steam works beautiful on it because this is also my Linux gaming laptop, and I am impressed with Steam on it. I am impressed with the overall how well and smooth it works in Pop! OS. I do want to try some. I want to load DaVinci and some other tools on it to really get a feel for it, and then I'll probably do a Pop! OS review. Yeah, for large offices and residents, make sure you don't have an unintentional Faraday cage to block things. That is the challenge. Yes, Jeff Geerling is the definitely one of those people that just does really good note taking. I aspire as well to be at Jeff Geerling's level. I say I have a process. I do not have a process that is clean and tight as Jeff Geerling's note taking process. You moved the Joplin a few years ago, does everything you know and syncs really well. Yeah, the Joplin sync server is great. Buy the 100-year-old house, commit to a full rewire renovation, or trust modern cowboy builders with their wiring skills. Yeah. Yeah, Jeff does a great job of using GitHub for his documentation. I know Jeff uses Git for his documentation and pushes it to GitHub. Do you use ICDoc or something to convert M2 to U2 on a Dell server? Or I have not had a need to do that. I know ICDoc makes some pretty good stuff. A lot of people like it, but I haven't really had a need to do that. When I ran in the previous 22 version of Pop! OS DaVinci, it works smooth. Now, there are some limitations when you run DaVinci on Linux. It has less audio codec support, but there's workarounds. Like I just make sure everything's in a codec that it supports, which most cameras output in a codec it supports. And OBS can be set to output in a codec that's supported. So it's not that hard, and it was easy to use FFmpeg to convert. So outside of that, DaVinci Resolve works well in Pop! OS. Now I haven't tried it with a new Cosmic desktop, just been on my to-do list and just haven't gotten around to it. Used to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So hearing someone say the move to Joplin has a different meaning. Yes, I think the same thing, only because I have friends in that area, and I think of Joplin like, yeah. Joplin's a place, not a note-taking app. I still want to bury my single mode fiber back in the yard. Link to my house. Yeah. Sorry, yawning. My house has no network infrastructure, so everything I need has been added to me at great difficulty. Yes. Oh, yeah, you're going Joplin. Janis Joplin is definitely a singer. Like your UniFi firewall, did you ever do destination NAT to force IoT devices to the router's DNS, particularly some streaming devices for ad block? I have not really messed with that. I don't know. It's kind of, maybe I'm weird because one, I don't really a lot of the ads are embedded, so I don't even know how effective it is. And I also don't really watch streaming. So I don't, that's probably the bigger answer as to why I don't. My lack of streaming watching is probably the reason why I don't do that. Because maybe if I was so annoyed by it, but I don't even know how effective it is. Because correct me if I'm wrong, and people feel free to comments because this is not a part I know about. When you subscribe to the streaming services that like Amazon, and I know they insert ads, and when those ads are playing that they insert, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they just streamed from the service so you can't really stop them? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. That's my assumption as to how they work, that they're not pulling in an ad from somewhere else. It's in the stream. So when they force you to watch some stupid commercial, so there's not really anything you can do to block that, other than pay the ransom to them. Because if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I keep up with the news a little bit, and I see like, we're going to charge you for streaming. We're going to put ads in, or you're going to pay more. Then you pay more, and they go, that was easy. We're going to charge you even more or put more ads in. I think right now with the streaming services, I think we're one merger away from cable TV again. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, the UK has a much different construction. Actually, I would say Europe as a whole, my understanding of a lot of European houses is they're not stick built like a lot of the ones here in the US. Therefore, they're a lot more challenging to put wiring and conduit in. So Amazon Prime won't even function. Yeah. I assume that's how it worked. As someone who doesn't really consume a lot of streaming media, I wasn't sure. Like, I do know that, some of my wife's clicker games won't work if we do ad blocking. I don't know. She likes clicker games on her phone. I don't play those. So that's why I don't really care much about the ad blocking stuff. It's not something that really affects my day. Yeah, just don't watch shows that have ads. And I agree. One of my friends, he does this as well. I'm a full believer in this. He doesn't like any show that has a laugh track. That's his rule for not watching a show. I will say there's an exception. The IT crowd has a laugh track, but it's worth watching. Are there any cheaper 10 gig, 24 port or less switches that both work without much fiddling, but have the ability to do VLAN stuff? Not looking for full enterprise network stuff, pro summer. Probably your best bet is going to be your MikroTik switches. They are among the cheapest. If you don't want to get into the UniFi ecosystem, they're going to be probably the runner up on there. Now, it's going to take a little fiddling to get the VLANs configured on a MikroTik if you've not done it before. UniFi definitely is far easier to configure VLANs on, but UniFi is going to be, getting into their ecosystem. So if you're looking for only a singular standalone switch, MikroTik has probably got some of the best prices out there on them. You have no idea what the struggle when you don't have Ethernet cables all over your house in the U. Recently, 5 gig fiber UDM Pro only does 3.5 gigs IPS on, 2.5 IPS off, but still gets 3.5 gigs as expected. It might go a little faster if you turn it off. I don't know. I don't know the specs on it to see if it can do over that. I thought that one did 5, but maybe it only does 3.5. I don't know. I know I have a UDM Pro, and my cable company is actually the problem here. I never get my full 1 gig. I always get 800. I get sometimes 900, but I've connected directly to it. So my company just doesn't consistently give it to me. Now, sometimes it does, and a lot of times it doesn't. So I started running speed tests on a more regular basis. There's some inconsistencies of what they actually give me. So if it bothers you a lot, try bypassing it. See if you can actually get 5 by connecting another device to it. I don't know. Anyone in IT needs to watch the IT crowd. Yeah. Cut the cord, buy the DVD whenever you can. I stopped streaming, moved to Plex and streaming my own stuff. Yeah. If you are maybe like I am, a Star Trek nerd or whatever, go over to eBay. You can find some of these shows maybe that you wanted to watch. I'm just pulling up a couple random ones. I'll put in Star Trek because I will start. Oh, actually, Stargate. There you go. But it's not crazy to buy a complete DVD set now of some of these. I mean, $35 for the complete series, Stargate SG-1. Probably actually I would say Deep Space Nine. DS9's the best. Deep Space Nine complete series. Yeah, complete series, 47 disc set, $50. So it's going for like $50. You can get that, watch it, and then have no commercials. Yeah, if you're doing layer 2 and VLANs, MikroTik switches and Switch OS is pretty simple. It's not near as hard to figure out. And their videos on their site have a lot of tutorials on how to get those things set up. Do you know the benefit of using UniFi OS over the standard UniFi network application when you're only using it for APs and switches? I think you don't get to use the alarm manager, but I'm not sure how much usefulness the alarm manager is without having routers. So there's probably not a huge one, but I think UniFi is eventually going to move to UniFi OS, which is fine because it's still no registration or anything required. It actually has a simpler updating mechanism as well. Yeah, DS9's great. I'm definitely a big fan of there. Currently I do not use any Exo Store. Maybe this year I'll do, because now I was saying next year, but now I think this year maybe I'll do a video about it because there's been a lot of changes to it. In your UniFi firewall vid, you show doing a custom zone. Worth mentioning with the UniFi CyberSecure simple ad block, it says only works with internal and hotspot zones. Interesting. Didn't realize it wouldn't work. I went and paid for CyberSecure so I could do a review. I wanted to pay for it myself and let people know that I did that. It wasn't given to me. Will I renew the subscription? Maybe just to have it, but I don't really use it much, as I don't really do any blocking here. We're all adults here, so I don't block any stuff. Your PFS device is old and you're considering a UniFi gateway. What are my options for replacing PF Blocker NG on a UniFi? Well, I need to stand up a pie hole. If you want the level of granularity that you get with PF Blocker NG, you want to put custom feeds in there, yes, you're going to have to do something like a pie hole. There was going to be a lot of opinions that come because you said pie hole. There are other competing platforms like AdGuard or whatever, but you will need to use one of those if you want that granularity. I don't know if I'm looking forward to anything at CES. When is CES? Oh, a couple days from now. So definitely not going because I didn't plan on going. So no, I don't have much thoughts on CES. What are the best ways to convert the DVDs to a usable format for home media servers? Plex used to be the go-to, but it seems like Jellyfin, not Jellyfish, is more preferred. I have moved myself over to Jellyfin, and I'm very happy with it. I think Jellyfin works quite well. I find Plex's interface kind of confusing. I was having weird problems with Plex, which was kind of led me down a rabbit hole to try different things. And Jellyfin is open source, and I think there's a way you can. I remember donating to it. Let me look. I feel like I donated money to it. Contribute. But anyways, Jellyfin's pretty popular. Of course, there's always going to be someone who has an opinion that you should use something else, but Jellyfin is GNU GPL licensed. Download Jellyfin. I swear there was something where I could donate money to them, and I did. Maybe I'm wrong, and I should. We do not run servers for people. Shows, music. I don't know. Jellyfin's a good tool. You have a pie hole, need to do a better job of incorporating IPs into DHCP VDM Pro. Just had a Dell PowerEdge T420 with 8 2.5 bays. What disk would you use on it for TrueNAS? Depends on the storage you need, but I believe your T420 is probably going to have SAS drives, and you can find some pretty good deals on used ones. So it comes down to what's your budget and how much storage do you need. Will SATA SSD be dead soon and all move to NVMe? I would say probably SATA as a form factor. Yeah, they're going to become less and less popular as things are definitely moving to NVMe. Now, you're spinning 3.5 inch and maybe some of you're spinning 2.5 inch. Those have a longer life simply because we keep making bigger drives with more storage. And from a cost perspective, it is still cheaper to store things on a, spinning drive. Yeah, I still have the Plex lifetime. I have a few friends that use Plex, so I connect to some of their servers so we can watch movies together. I am curious what devices that you are needing to use that you're worried about the DNS on them. Also, ARM, automatic ripping machine, can work, but can be finicky. Yeah, if you look up, there's a few people done some videos on the automatic ripping machine, and it's pretty cool. We're going to build one. We're going to take and convert, me and my son-in-law are going to convert a bunch of movies that are archive things. And, some of it's all kinds of, I was looking at even all the movies I have that I haven't converted. I'm like, oh man, I haven't watched that in a long time. I don't want to put a DVD in. So we're going to start dumping all of these somewhere and putting them all together because we own all the media. I was a movie person for quite a while, and it was different stupid action movies or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll watch those. But yeah, the automatic ripping machine definitely looks promising. Oh, to see the video, Dell XR740 XT install XTBG, why not TrueNAS? And not work. It works fine with TrueNAS. I actually have TrueNAS on it right now. Colton, Hardware Haven, and Radal both have automatic ripping machine videos. Yes. Hardware Haven's got a good video on it. I have not. Radal's a friend of mine too, but I have not watched his. I have watched Colton's video on it. You built your own process automation. I pretty much just rip a DVD to an NFS and then scripts to the rest. Yes. Yeah, there's something kind of fun. You enjoy the process of just ripping the CDs. I like the physical media loaded in there, whirs up. Kind of cool. Currently testing Jellyfin right now. There are any gotchas compared to Plex for format handling. Someone above mentioned some of MKV. I don't know that there's any challenges I've really run into with Jellyfin. Now, maybe other people have done things different than me, but all the stuff I've tested with it seemed to work fine with my Plex library. I only recently fixed this. When I swapped over to Jellyfin, I had the shared folder called Plex. And then that's been like that for a couple of years until I finally moved it over to another server. It's like, I'm not going to rename the folder because it'll break things. So it was called that, but it seemed to pick up everything and it was working fine. You're moving your mom's computer to Linux and dumping OneDrive. Well, congratulations on moving to Linux. Should I build her a NAS for backups or backup to my NAS? She is on a separate VLAN. You can put a very specific firewall rule in to allow just the backups to go to your NAS. So save yourself the trouble of building a second NAS and just use one NAS and take those extra saved dollars and make your NAS better. But you can build firewall rules that are granular and say like her computer and only the ports it needs for whatever backup tool you're using. Do I use Zeek or other to log inside VLAN? What do you recommend? If you're Zeek is cool for visibility. I don't use that on a day-to-day basis. I have Wireshark when I need to see things, but I don't have continuous deep look into the packets outside of what UniFi does. And your neighbor had some tannerite. Fun stuff. Oh, there used to be a distro called Vortex Box that had the auto rack rigging machine. Huh. Any tips on setting up public SMB share on TrueNAS? I've tried most open ACLs with no success. I don't see any out. Public SMB share, like a guest. I think there's a guest option. I always want password on there. I don't want guest shares, but I think there's an option in TrueNAS to do guest settings. Let me look. Let's look together. I don't really have many people ask me about setting up a guest anymore. It's always locked down. Usually, and generally, what I would recommend. But if we do a share, yeah, they don't have a guest. I don't see one for guest in here. I'm assuming there's got to be a way to do guest. I don't know. At one time, I think there was the option in here where you could just change it to guest. But I do not see that. I'd have to test it. It's rare people are asking about guest share. I have to see. There's probably a user you have to add to it to make a guest share work. I have not had a chance to look at the HL15 Beast. But I'm sure it'll be. I have some videos I plan on doing with my friends over at 45 Drives. So, didn't Windows break guest authentication on 25H2? Maybe. I don't know. There's probably. Okay, someone says you have to make a guest account with no passwords and add that user to the ACL. Okay, that makes sense. I'm curious your take on LabShock. I don't know what LabShock is. Let's look it up. So currently I have no take on it. I don't do industrial cyber labs, so I've never used it and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about is this. So I have no opinion on it. I mean, it looks neat, but there's a lot of cool things like this out there. But couldn't tell you if it's a good thing or a bad. I mean, sounds fun. Website looks cool. I don't do a bunch of IoT industrial controller testing though. So I'm not big on Discord. So yes, I have one. I've debated about getting rid of it because it's so infrequently used. Because I don't really use Discord. I am on Discord. I'm in a lot of Discords. I can be summoned with the @Launch Systems. You can usually find me, but I don't like Discord. I prefer forums. So if you're looking for a way to like connect with me, this is the way right here is with my forums. Because I spend a lot of time in my forums replying to everybody. I hate Discord as a forum. It's a terrible, terrible forum. I'm waiting for at some point Discord probably to get bought by some private equity firm and charge a bunch of money for everything they have in there. But you can't publicly index that is a huge problem, which leads to people constantly asking the same questions because they can't find it. So they go in there and ask the same question because who wants to scroll up through 35 million memes to find the question before? So, yeah. So I have it, but I don't know if I may just I've removed links for it. So much information gets lost because of Discord. Yes. Right. Discord is not a forum, it's a chat app. But people post all the time like find support in our Discord and I'm like it's a mess. It's not publicly indexed. It's broken. There's a reason I run forums and there's a reason I have so many people in my forums. Cuz it's not wrong here. I actually auto purge, by the way, to prove I'm not someone who collects data on people. I purge people out of my forums. If you don't log in for, I think 2 years, I think it's set to just under 2 years, I automatically remove your account. I don't want all your data. I only want you there if you're there to have a conversation. Discord's been like the Discourse is a tool I use to run my forums, but I host them, I manage them, and yeah, it's been I pay out of pocket to run my forums or a free service I like to give away. Yeah, me and Wendell are both very much agree on forums. We both like it. No, their posts don't get removed. I anonymize accounts. So there's a really cool feature that if you have a bunch of posts, they will anonymize the user for me so they can get rid of the user, anonymize the user, but leave the post. That way there's still context to the conversation to help people, but you're removing that. Which it's worked out really well. No one's really complained about this at all. Why people worry about personal data? Google Meta already knows everything about us. Not everything. A big issue with Discord-based support is how many times people are willing to answer the same question again and again. Yes. Yeah, it's funny when people start looking things up, and even some of my former staff, they kind of joke. They said they start looking for something and realize it was in Tom's forums. No, there is no recovering the anonymized account. I can't even recover the anonymized account. Discord, to me, is like the AOL chat rooms, whereas forums remind me of the old bulletin boards. Yes. You should have clicked the ACL, and there is an everyone group you can use. Okay. I understood Tom's reference, not liking Discord as a forum, as in public forum, meeting place in a general sense. Yeah, definitely not a good digital forum space. I don't mind chatting with people on Discord. I have a lot of people that talk to me via Discord. That's fine. I was actually, when I was glancing over, I see I have a bunch of messages on Discord. I'm fine with messaging people on Discord. I just don't have time to be in all the group chats. I have some gaming chats, or I have chats I might be in for friends, but to join and be in a group chat all the time is a lot. I don't know. You've talked about in the past at any opinion on Netbox. It's been on my to-do list to set up Netbox. I just haven't got around to it. That is definitely one of the things there's a 2026 goal, set up Netbox and do a video about it. Yeah, even though they're rooms, Discord remains unstructured. To me, Discord is a IRC replacement. IRC still has some users. There's some people still using IRC out there, but yeah, I think Discord's pretty much the IRC replacement. I don't really think of email as social media. YouTube is social. I don't know that YouTube is social media first. YouTube is a place where people can share videos that has a social aspect to it. It's kind of like, is Pinterest social media? Pinterest, it comes up in search results. I don't really use Pinterest, but like Pinterest has photos and stuff and you can comment on those, but is it really social media? Versus Facebook is a hellscape of social media first and just social media second. Netbox, yes, Netbox is something I'm working on for my blog channel on my main. Awesome. Yeah, I just haven't really, I got to sit down and really learn it. It is definitely on my to-do list. So message me if you have some tips for me. Let me know what problems will I run into. Does Discord support an easy way of the forum database to back up and archival purposes, or would they rather make a zim file from the web UI, back up the forum that way? I have backups. So my forums themselves, pull them up real quick so you get an idea how they look like. So there are backups in my forums, and I can force a backup now. I can roll back. I download these and keep these off of the server. So that's where the backups go. It's actually shockingly small for as big as my forums have become over the years. It's only 1.5 gigs. So it's really not much data because text compresses really well. Yeah, going with your own Mumble server is pretty good. Use his work as well, so I plan to bug the senior engineers and get more real world info. Awesome. They have a free course for Netbox right now, so you can learn in a structured way. Oh, that's actually really cool. I didn't know that. What is discourse written in? I don't know. I haven't looked. I knew at one time, but that information is not on my fingertips right now. Let's look together. Let's find it. It's on Netbox. I like that. Class on Netflix. Oh, interestingly, I'm assuming it's this here, Netbox Labs. But also, Christian Lempa just did a video on it. He does good videos. I haven't watched this one, but if you're not familiar with Christian Lempa, he's this guy. Manage your network like a pro with the Netbox tutorial. So 40,000 people have watched it so far. But assuming these are the Netbox Labs, hands-on Netbox, the fundamentals. So cool. They have community meetups. Nice. As long as software discourse written most in profanity, I don't know. Probably, yes. So it's a Ruby application. It's open source. So you posted my forums back in 2019 and 2021. Wow. Been a minute. Welcome back if you feel like joining again. And Netbox is written in Python into Django. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I think I'm going to wind this down here. I see suddenly like Netbox less. There is a fork of Netbox. Before I wind it down, let's find that real quick. Fork of Netbox. Someone probably already says it. So this is a fork. If anyone's interested, I have not tried it. I don't know the merits of it. But there was some debate among developers, as happens. And not about it as a network source of truth and network automation platform built as a web application on top of the Django Python network from Postgres and MySQL databases. So also based on the same thing, but this is a fork that has, if I understood when someone was explaining this to me, and by the way, this is someone else told me this, that the reason for it is because it, they have more automation tools instead of just being a source of truth. It also has some automation built in, but yeah, I don't know. But I'm going to wind it down here. Oh, thanks, Found You Randomly. Was surprised to see someone do a straight New Year's Day. Yeah, I like helping out people and doing Q&As and things like this. I do them every Thursday and sometimes on Saturdays too, occasionally on Sunday. I like doing live streams. I love interacting with all of you. It's been great. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes, but you helped me in the first, I don't know, 20 minutes while we sorted out stupid problems with StreamYard. So that was definitely fun for those of you that have been hanging out for the entire few hours, but wow. But nonetheless, hit me up in the forums at forums.lawrencesystems.com if you have any questions, comments, or want to engage with me. I do answer Discord messages if you want to DM me via Discord. If you go to my website, check at the bottom. And by the way, turn off your blocker. You'll find, let me just point this out because someone told me, hold on, where to go? Let's share the tab real quick. If you're using some blockers, apparently they won't let you link to all my socials, but these are all my socials. You can find me on Steam and several other social platforms. But that's all at the bottom on my website, lawrencesystems.com. So I'm pretty easy person to get hold of and find. But thanks, everyone. excited to see all of you in 2026. So whether it's in the forums online or wherever on the socials, reach out, say hi, and I'm gonna go chill out because my wife just got home and I'm hungry. I think she's got food. Later.